Good evening, New Hope family and friends, and greetings from the Kozak family. We're so happy to be with you here this evening worshiping with you. We know that Zoom is not like meeting face to face, but it is a great alternative, and we're so happy for that technology. We look forward to seeing you in person in our new church home very soon.
We are anxious, as I'm sure you all are, to watch the development of our new property. What a day that will be when we can all meet in our new church home.
For now, know that you matter in more ways than we can count. We love you, we love you, we love you. And God bless.
church family, I would like to share Kings chapter 4, verses 42 through 44. Listen for the word of the Lord. A man came from Baal-Shalisha, bringing the man of God's 20 loaves of barley bread, baked from the first white grain, along with some heads of new grain. Give it to the people to eat, Elijah said. How can I set this before 100 men? His servant asked. But Elijah answered, give it to the people to eat, for this is what the Lord says. They will eat and have some leftovers. Then he set it before them, and they ate and had some leftovers, according to the word of the Lord. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Friends, we have to keep doing what we're doing, and that is praying together as a community. Remember, the prayers of the righteous availeth much. And there is much that we can continue to do to share God's love, God's peace, God's justice, and God's hope as we stand in this place and community that can sometimes feel a little bit scary. With this COVID rising again, it really has people unsettled. But we have a God that is reigning high and looking over us and calling us to be generous in our compassion, our kindness, and the way in which we give, particularly of our, as we call it, first fruits. So let's keep doing that together. And I'm prayerful for our prayer group and our deacons and the session and the people in community who are drawing in right now and knowing that there is power in prayer, because prayer is love. So let's talk about being faithful and generous, even in a season that feels like scarcity. We're going to stay on this theme for a while because I think that it's just so important that we walk in the faith of our generosity and never forget to give back to God. So I want to tell you a little story, something that happened in my childhood that I would say changed my life and probably influenced my call to ministry. When I was little, living in South Carolina, my mother would plant and harvest her garden every single summer, and a portion was always put aside for the community. No matter what she brought in, whatever crop it was, whether it was a big crop or a small crop, a portion of it would be for us, and a portion of it would be for the community. And I remember sometimes coming on the back porch and I would see these baskets filled with corn or okra or green beans. And I would say, okay, so who's this for? And she'd say, oh, that's ours. And I'd say, well, who's all this for? And she would say, oh, that's for people at the church, for the community. I'm going to take some over to the senior citizens home. And I would look at it sometimes and I would think to myself, they're getting more than we're getting. And I really like corn. I really like green beans. But summer after summer, I would see this happen. And there was never a time, because that food would last us into wintertime. There was never a time when our family didn't have enough. Even though she was operating and my dad was operating, and as a family, they were teaching me and my brother how to operate in this sacrificial faith. I realized that fresh corn that was frozen for us was still good at Thanksgiving, and we still had enough, more than enough, as we could celebrate what it means to feed those who were vulnerable, to give to those who were struggling, to help those grandmothers in the community who were single-handedly trying to raise their grandkids. It mattered. And I remember one day a neighbor came over and this person said to my mom, Miss Doris, you have a miracle garden out there. And you know what? I agree. She had a miracle garden, because it wasn't her that was necessarily making the miracles happen. It was God who was the miracle maker, and he was using her hands, her energy. He was giving her vision to believe that we could make a contribution that would make a difference in the world. God did make miracles happen. And we, as a family and a community, got to do some miraculous things like sharing God's humanity. We got to sharing God's faith. We got to literally sharing God's love by giving away those first fruits, those first vegetables. We got to move from limited vision to the full expansion of what it means to be about a divine blessing on somebody's life. I can't tell you how much I now know that influences and influenced the ministry that I do today. And while it's not about me, it's about how God creates miracles in each of us that we can come together and tell the story of how we've overcome by making a sacrifice that makes a difference in somebody else's life. And we have to keep expecting miracles, and we have to keep trusting that God is going to work in the overflow. I pray that you believe that. You see, this speaks to the history of provision that God has given us through the prophets. Let's look at 2 Kings here. We have in this text that Jonathan read, the prophet Elijah, whose name actually means God is salvation. He was the successor of Elijah in the office of the prophet in Israel. So, Elijah was leading during a time of great poverty and strife. The community was facing war, and there was a whole lot of distrust. It was hard to actually focus on being generous in a time where there was so much scarcity. But then a neighbor came along. A neighbor from a city nearby came to Elijah, and he did a magic, and I would say a miraculous thing. There's no magic in it. It's about God's miracle being unveiled. This man must have had a miracle garden. Maybe a neighbor told him, "You have a miracle garden." Because he seemed to know about sacrifice. He seemed to know about giving. He came to Elisha in order to share his first fruits. He was forthcoming, and he felt compelled to walk into this generosity. And maybe he just wanted to bless Elisha. But what he did was he gave Elijah 20 loaves of barley and fresh ears of grain. And Elijah looked at all of this. And Elisha said to his servant, "Now give this out to the people because they need something to eat." And the servant looked at this food, and he considered the hundreds of people that needed to be fed. And he said, "There's just not enough. Why would we even do this? There is not enough." But you see, Elisha knew that when we make a sacrifice to help the least of these, God starts to make miracles happen. Elisha seemed to understand that the grain and the barley was God's creation. It didn't really belong to the neighbor in the first place. It was not to be hoarded. It was not to be stored or set into a defined budget. It was not even to be rationed out as to who deserves and who does not deserve. It appears to me, in my sanctified imagination, that Elisha understood that when we use our resources and the first fruits to help, to heal, to hope, to support, to feed, and to influence, we walk into a spirit of generosity that can't be contained on a budget sheet, can't be contained in what we think we know, can't be contained by trying to split hairs on how we're going to make it work. The bottom line is we'll make it work. Feed the people with the barley and the grain. because we are going to be a part of God's miracle story. We become a part of somebody's testimony. We become a part of a family being uplifted. We become a part of letting people know that they don't have to be scared always, because there is fruit to come. There is faith to be had. There is hope to be given. We become a part of that. That happened in my childhood, and it can happen today. It happened with Elijah, and Elijah went to that servant and said, let me repeat myself one more time. It seemed that Elisha knew that when we make a sacrifice to help the least of these, God multiplies the giving. Elijah understood that the grain and the barley belonged to God in the first place. And so he repeated himself to the servant, and he said, give it to the people and let them eat. This is what the Lord said, that they shall eat and have some left. And the servant set it before them, and they ate, and they had some left, according to the word of the Lord. I told you once before that Elijah's name means God is salvation. I told you that Elijah was the successor of Elijah, and he is the prophetic witness to Jesus, who is salvation, who was salvation, who brought salvation to the world. This is the Jesus, the son of the miracle-making God, who actually took 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread and fed 5,000 people. And that's our good news. The good news for you today is to know that we can be a part of a faith network and a hope experience in which God will transform what seems like really, really small and inadequate and make it a bounty of outpouring when we seek to help one another. It's what community is about. It's why our prayers are filled with love. It's why we have to keep going into the community in a time of pandemic, in a time of economic strain, in a time of political turmoil, and say, God will give you enough and there will be an overflow. Huh. And when we live like this, I can promise you, all our lives are changed when we seek to live out God's purpose in humanity. Everyone gets fed when we choose to walk in God's faith and believe in preparing places of justice. And that's the way it goes with love. We have more than enough to share. And that's the way it goes with faith, my beloved. We have more than enough to share. And that's the way it goes with hope. We have more than enough to share. And that's the way it goes with the love that's stirred up inside of you. There's more than enough to share. And you won't go wrong in giving your all to Christ and to seeking to be a part of unifying the community. That's what a generous spirit does. Because our resources and our money are planted in God's miracle garden. And God is calling us to share these first fruits. And when we step out on faith and let our generosity outweigh scarcity, when we sacrifice for the sake of the church and the needs of mission, we become the victorious people of God that truly sets the captives free. We become a part of bringing liberation to the oppressed and equity to the marginalized. We become a part of a divine blessing that influences change, that builds God's kingdom and guides us like a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night in the mission to feed the hungry, support the most vulnerable, and work in building the church. Let us continue to make the sacrifices, the generous ones. So my mom would get up there on that porch, or we'd be on that porch, and I would see her harvest And I would say, what belongs to us? And she'd say, this part belongs to us. And I would say, well, what are we doing with the rest? And she'd say, well, this is like giving back to God. This belongs to God's community. Now, let us do likewise with our money, with our time, with our talent, tied up in a bow called love, and watch God multiply the increase. Not so that we can have some artificial influence and power, but that we can be authentic witnesses to the goodness of Jesus Christ. And we can draw all people, draw all souls to knowing, just hold on. Everything is going to be all right, because God expands the promise and gives us the means to share the good news for the miracle of a new day, a new peace, and a new hope. Until we meet again, I'm asking you today to make a commitment to share your resources, and you will find that you still have more than enough. God bless you.
Oh, hi. Well, I'm in my garden, checking out all of the plants and seeing how they're doing. It's been wonderful just to see their growth and development. You know, I think the same way about New Hope Presbyterian Church. We really have grown, and in order for us to continue to grow, I think it's so important to be able to support the church. I've been supporting, and I invite you to support the church as well. You can go to our website, which is listed here. You can also mail your check to the address that is shown, or you can call the church office. Either way, I hope that you will join me in supporting this church that is committed to nurturing us spiritually.
Good evening, New Hope family and friends. It's me bringing you your New Hope Presbyterian Church weekly announcements. If you missed it last week, you have another opportunity to join us this week on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. for the Holy Hangout. Pastor Chanetta has come up with some very just awesome questions for us to answer and share with each other during the Hangout. It gives us an opportunity to get to know each other better in a holy setting. And so if you don't know what this week's topic is coming up, guess where you can find it? In your Ministry and Community e-news newsletter. So look for it in your email and check the date for this Tuesday, August 17th at 7 p.m. and see what our topic is going to be upcoming this week. Also on Thursday nights, we'll have our prayer gathering at 6 p.m. Join us virtually online so that we can take the time to pray for one another and to gather together in fellowship and encourage one another. Also, don't forget, our in-person service is August 21st at 5 p.m. Gonna be an awesome service. I hate I'm gonna miss it, but I am definitely gonna be there with you in spirit. And also, be on the lookout. You know, we partner with Family Promise, and we are going to be serving dinner to some families. So the dates will be announced by me, of course, and in your Ministry and Community e-news newsletter. You will be getting information, and if you need to know what's going on, you can always contact our beautiful and wonderful sister, Colleen McNamara, at colleen4peace@gmail.com. That's COLLEEN, the number 4, peace@gmail.com. I'm sure she'll be glad to hear from you and needs all the support of our New Hope family and partners to make our partnering with Family Promise a success. So, are you a person in New Hope? Are you a young person? Are you an old person? Has God just blessed you to be a person? Well, that's great, because the Connection Ministry is looking for you. We're looking for persons, actually, our New Hope family and partners, to contact the Connection Ministry for your opportunity to volunteer and connect with other members and partners of New Hope Presbyterian Church. We have some exciting events coming up, like Pet Connect, and it's COVID, so we got a couple of special surprises. But if you're a people person and you love your New Hope family and partners, then contact info@mynewhopepres.org, and in the subject line put, I want to be a part of the Connection Ministry. And when you do that, someone from the Connection Ministry will connect with you. We look so forward to getting all of the rush of emails so that we can continue to not only support each other in the New Hope family, support our partners, but also start our outreach into our new Anaheim, California community. So, did you stay last week for the announcements? After the announcements? Well, you might want to do that again this week. But remember to like us and subscribe and tell all your family, friends, and foes about New Hope Presbyterian Church YouTube channel. God bless you and have a wonderful week.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sujin Ko, and I am the Director of Adult Education and Resident Theologian at New Hope and St. Mark Presbyterian Churches.
I'm Janetta Goodjoin, pastor of New Hope Presbyterian Church.
And I'm Mark Davis, pastor at St. Mark Presbyterian.
We're here today to tell you about a powerful experience that our two congregations are planning to share.
It's called Journeying Together Toward Racial Justice, a 6-month journey during which we will discuss the church, racism, and how we build bridges of justice and peace. We will have monthly large group meetings on Wednesday evenings and small group discussions in between. We anticipate that the discussions will be enlightening and challenging, calling on us to exercise our greatest efforts at listening and being open to transformation.
The flow of our journey is being developed by a team made up of members of both congregations. And our aim is to build a faith-based approach to racial justice that's guided by the Spirit and that draws on the strength of our biblical and theological tradition.
The journey begins with a kickoff event on September 15th, and the first large group meeting will start on September 22nd. We will be forming our conversations around the book, Race in America, Christians Respond to the Crisis, and cover topics such as systemic racism, the history of Christianity and race, white supremacy, and the contemporary abolition movement. If you have any questions, please check the information on each of our church's websites or call the church offices. We hope you can join us for this event.